Welcome back to my channel for a Hasselblad lens review, which actually a lot of people have asked for in the comments under a recent video I posted on my channel. And the lens I want to review in this video and also show you lots of images and will provide a lot of hints is the XCD 20-35mm E lens. And E stands for exclusive. And Hasselblad in the XCD lineup has only two exclusive lenses, this one here and the brand new 35-100mm. In this video, I will tell you everything you might want to know about this lens. I shot it on my brand new Hasselblad X2D Mark II. And as I said, we'll look into a lot of images and you will be able after the video to come up with your own thoughts, your own ideas, your own conclusions, whether this wide angle zoom lens is for you or whether you prefer some other lens in the XCD lineup. Let's kick this off. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so, subscribe, hit the notification bell, support my work. Many thanks for that. All right, so wide angle zoom lenses. This one here is actually a nice one. First of all, it looks pretty good on the Hasselblad X2D Mark II, and it also looks pretty good on the predecessor on the Hasselblad X2D. So if you don't have the new X2D Mark II, don't worry. This lens will perform in the same way on the predecessor and is just a really good looking lens. Look at that. Proportions are nice. I think in terms of weight, we come to specifications in the course of the video. It just is a perfect fit for the camera body of the X2D and the X2D Mark II. In terms of zoom range here, we have a zoom ring here and we start at 20mm, then we have 24, 28, 32, 35 and everything in between, of course, on a continuous scale. And from my shooting experience, I can already here say that this is almost as having at least 5 prime lenses mounted to the camera body. 20, 24, 28, 32, 35. And I'll show you later sample images exactly shot at these focal lengths so you can make your own conclusions. The build quality of the lens is absolutely fabulous. It's a full metal finish. It's the same quality as what we are used to from other XCD lenses. It's weather sealed. I show you very quickly. Let's get the lens off here. And you see here there is a very, very strong rubber sealing, but Hasselblad does not provide an official weather sealing rating for that lens. So I feel comfortable shooting this lens in rain, but it's of course your own decision what you want to do with that lens. Let's mount this back here. Red dot needs to be at 12 o'clock. Then it snaps in. Listen to the sound. Very good. And this lens here is a pretty new lens. It's not in the market for a long time. And I think is also a really good supplementary lens, complementary lens, I should have said, to the brand new 35-100mm, because that means if you have both lenses, you will cover the full spectrum of focal lengths between 20 and 100mm. If you are generally a full frame sensor shooter, then the field of view of the 20mm here dialed in on the zoom ring corresponds to 16mm field of view in a full frame equivalent setup. And if you are here at the other end of the spectrum at 35mm, you will have the same field of view in a full frame equivalent setup as a 27mm focal length on a 36x24mm sensor. So that is basically what you get in terms of field of view. You can find this in the datasheet Hasselblad has published on their website. You can also do the math yourself by applying a crop factor of 0.79 between a 44x33mm sensor and a full frame sensor with dimensions of 36x24mm. The diagonal angle of view you can cover with 20mm setup here on the zoom ring and on the X2D Mark II sensor is really large. It's 108 degrees. That means if you stand in the corner of a room, you will capture a lot because the angle of view is larger, significantly larger than 90 degrees. And that means this lens is definitely also made for architectural photography. You can use it in all different ways. Whereas I think, and I show it later in the sample images, 35mm is also a beautiful focal length on this X2D Mark II sensor, of course. I just said in the spec sheet, it's corresponding to a 27mm field of view on a full frame equivalent sensor. But of course, if we forget about 27, give or take, let's say 28, this is basically the field of view of a Leica Q3 28. And that is, of course, also good for people, reportage, street photography, what have you. So this is a very versatile lens. You can use it for all kinds of shooting situations. Where this lens is not spectacular is on the maximum magnification. We have here a maximum magnification of 1 divided by 10.6. So that's less than 10% if you are in the wide angle setting, and 1 divided by 6.4, which is a bit better for close-up shots if you are in the 35mm setting. But in general is not really made for macro. Having said that, you can use the Hasselblad extension tubes and you can double them up. And I showed it in a recent video how to do that and how the effect is. And then you will get a significantly higher magnification. Drop me a comment if you want to see how to use this lens for close-up shooting with the Hasselblad extension tubes. And I'm happy to provide that video and also show you sample images. The minimum focusing distance of this lens is actually 32 centimeter, so 0.32 meter, and it's measured from the sensor plane to the subject. And if you look here, let me just quickly zoom here a little bit so you might better see this. If you look here, there is actually a marker which indicates where the sensor plane is sitting. So you always have good orientation if you need that. And if you really want to measure a distance, go always from this marker, because this is where the sensor plane is sitting here in the camera body. The lens does not have a constant aperture at all zoom settings here. So the aperture will actually stop down between 20 and 35mm. Let me quickly show you. Let's go here into this screen here so you can better see this. I'm now at 20mm, so I have widest open f3.2. And now I move the zoom ring up to 35mm, and you see how it is stopping down here. Let's go to 35, and then we end up at widest open f4.5. Now the camera knows that you wanted widest open, so if I now basically zoom out again, it will automatically go back to f3.2 for the 20mm setting, which is convenient. So the camera has some memory built in here and knows you want to shoot widest open. Last but not least, it's not a lightweight lens, but it's also not super heavy, given that you have here a wide angle zoom lens and you have this full metal chassis here, the metal body of the lens, and the weight is, excluding the covers and the lens hood here, is 805 grams. I think this is really good in hand, convenient for me to shoot. Generally, the grip of the new Hasselblad X2D Mark II is really good. I like a lot this new texture here. It's very solid in my hands, and with this lens, it's a well-balanced camera lens combination. You will not go wrong with that. Shooting comfort is for granted. The optical construction of the lens reflects its capabilities. So we have here all in 16 elements in 12 groups. We have 3 aspherical elements and 4 extra low dispersion elements. So you can actually expect a lot from that lens when it comes to the optical quality, which is built in. And you will see in the sample images that this lens definitely does not disappoint. Autofocus is quite snappy. Let's look into this for a moment. Let's focus on Jennifer here. Focus on the background. Jennifer, background. There is no focus hunting, and in my shooting it worked actually even in low light pretty well. There is one caveat which I need to mention, of course. This lens is not yet, I'm intentionally saying yet, ready for autofocus continuous. And you see this if you go here into the settings. I'm currently in autofocus single, and then I have only manual focus available and autofocus continuous, so AFC is grayed out, and there is a remark here saying that AFC not supported by lens firmware version. Now, there are a lot of discussions about that in the web. I don't really think that we necessarily need AFC on this lens, but it would be nice to have it, of course. And a good argument why it should be there is, I mentioned before, 35mm here is 27 to 28mm full frame equivalent field of view. And of course, on the Leica Q3 28, we have a fully fledged AFC functionality, so we can track, we have face detection and all of that. Why should we not have it here if the camera per se is capable of doing it, and the lens hardware for sure is also capable of doing it? And I think here this little hint, not supported by lens firmware version, I can very well imagine that Hasselblad make up their mind once in a while and give us a firmware update where AFC is no longer grayed out, but for the time being, if you want to have this lens to play with autofocus continuous, you will not succeed because it's not there and the current firmware does not support it. In terms of specifications, build quality, design, we spoke about all of that. I'm actually done with my collection of facts I wanted to present here. What I will do next is going into sample images, spend a while there, discuss with you the image quality, looking at different settings here on the zoom ring for 20, 24, 28, 32 and 35 millimeter, and then conclude the video. I want to start with showing you the representation of images at different focal length settings. And we have here, this image is shot at 20 millimeter, 24 millimeter, 28 millimeter, 32 millimeter, and 35 millimeter. And that is what I promised before when we talked about specifications of the lens. And I want to show you how this lens looks like, because some of you asked in the comments when you dropped me a comment and said, I really would love to get a fully fledged lens review of this lens. Some of you asked and said, is it sharp only in the center or is it sharp at the corners? So I took these images at these 5 focal lengths and want to show you that. And first of all, the Swiss mountains here in the background, absolutely breathtaking. Actually, the level of structure and detail I get from this camera lens combination is almost unseen before. This is really amazing how even here the structure deeply into the forest is still recognizable. Let's go to the left-hand side here. Let's have a look here at the houses. Looks really, really good. And the same is true on the right-hand side if you look into the forest. Look at that. This is amazing. So this was 20 millimeter. This is 24. Of course, the mountains get closer to us now. Let's go here to the boundaries. Same situation. There is really nothing where I would say contrast or micro contrast or sharpness at the boundaries of the lens, at the bezel, is not of the same quality as what you get in the center of the frame, which is really, really cool. Then we have here 28 millimeter. So again, let's look here. Look at that. It looks just really, really good. If you are after details, this is your camera lens combination. I can tell you, if you're a pixel peeper, like to crop in by 100%, here is probably some of the best camera lens combinations you can pick ever at this point in time. Well, ever at this point in time, you know, there's always a new camera coming. Here's 32 millimeter, same situation, same story, and everything is well represented. Colors, contrast, micro contrast, sharpness, details, everything is there. It looks really good. I like a lot what I see here. And then we have, last but not least, 35 millimeter, which, as I said before, is comparable to the field of view of a Leica Q3 28. And also here, you get goodness in the center and on the boundaries. And there is really nothing I can complain about when it comes to this lens. Here I wanted to show 2 images where here at 20 millimeter, I opened the aperture widest to f3.2. And then you get a very dreamy look of the background here, nicely rendered, and you get a very sharp representation of the foreground. Look at the spider here in its web. Look at this here, and this looks really good. So you can actually, in particular, if you go to a near distance focusing situation, you can actually create soft background blurriness here. Here's another one where you see the mountains in the background, very dreamy. And this one here is not even shot widest open. This is at 35 millimeter and is shot at an f5.6, not widest open, which would be f4.5. But it looks good, and you can express creativity by opening the aperture to its widest setting. Here, panorama stitching I did from that bridge I was shooting from, and this is 232.7 megapixel. Is a really beautiful evening atmosphere image. And if I crop in here by 100%, this is just phenomenal everywhere, no matter where you go. I think it was 6 or 7 frames I stitched together here, and it just looks really, really good. Let's look at the other side. Also very good. I think, you know, you can do so much with that camera lens combination. And what I liked in particular then later in the evening was the atmosphere over the lake. Look at that. This is shot handheld, 1/5 seconds, so 1/5 of a second, f5.6, ISO 120 millimeter. This is kind of the same scene with 35 millimeter, but here I kept the native aspect ratio of 4:3. Here I cropped for a 16:9 aspect ratio, and it's just very nice. So here 1/5 of a second, 1/8 of a second, handheld, no tripod with me. And if I crop in here by 100%, this is just really, really good. So also for handheld shooting with longer exposures based on the absolutely amazing in-body image stabilization of the Hasselblad X2D Mark II. You have a lot of flexibility and optionality how to shoot here. Look at that 35mm. I think that concludes my session on sample images. I hope I was able to make my points. All right, that's it. That's all I wanted to say and show. I hope you liked that presentation here. A lot of you asked for that lens review. I hope I met your expectations and you got all the data points you wanted to have, including a lot of sample images so you can actually see the image quality you get out of this camera lens combination. If you liked that video, don't forget to drop me a thumbs up. Stay tuned on my channel. There's always more to come. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and healthy. And of course, peace out.